in the studio, we have Lucy Harris. Now, what does a coordinator of Leavers of London mean? What does that mean?
It's actually Leavers of Britain. We're national now. What does it mean? Well, it's a social networking site for people who voted Leave in the EU referendum.
Which you did.
Which I absolutely did.
So you are a British Brexiteer.
I am a British
You want
Brexiteer.
out. You want away from the EU. You want that £350 million a week. You want it done, right?
I want it now.
You want it now. That's, if you've just tuned in, that's Lucy from London saying she wants it now on the Jeremy Carr Radio Show. Now, Will, it's good to have you back. I thought you're called Will Dry, which is actually quite ironic. But anyway, you are the co-founder of Our Future, Our Choice. What does that mean in layman's terms? Come on, Will, don't be dry. Give it to me.
We're a group of young people who think that, we don't want to leave the European Union. We think it's going horrifically badly. And we should stay and have a vote on whether or not we should accept Theresa May's deal.
Right, before I put you head to head, I've got an answer. A question, Ian. What did 52% of Brits order for their Christmas dinner?
Not Brussels sprouts.
No Brussels. Hit that button. Hit the button. Right, you ready for this, you lot? Because I want you to sell it to the public.
So what, the EU or Brussels? What?
I like her. Right. Seconds out, round one. Let's start with you, Lucy Harris. The government can't agree anything. Theresa May goes to Brussels. She comes back with this plan. It ain't getting through Parliament. 53% of people voted to leave. We're going round in circles. Most people are bored to death of it. What's going to happen from a younger generational point of view?
What's going to happen? Well, what is the default position? What is it? I don't know what it is. I thought it was no deal, but apparently that's been nudged off the table by some massive cat that's just nudging it off the table. What is it?
If she doesn't get it through, Will, right? If she goes back to Parliament, she doesn't get this bill through, which is absolutely not going to happen. 100 Tory MPs have said no. She's not going to get it through. Does she go back to Brussels and try and change the deal? Or do we have a general election, a change of leader? Do we get a second vote? I hate this every week. We talk about a second bleeding referendum.
Nobody knows.
Oh my God! Somebody's got to know.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. It would be a crisis. We would be in an absolute constitutional.
Why?
Well, because Parliament could not decide what to do. The government wouldn't have a clue what to do. And I think if the politicians can't sort it out, I know it bores to death.
You know what would be really great if someone like Boris Johnson were to come along and just say,
you sound. I mean, I'm probably a Brexiteer to a degree-ish, but you sound like one of Boris's sort of chosen few. The guy has completely messed.
I'm a Boris fangirl. I will accept that.
He's screwed his opportunity up, hasn't he? By anybody's standards. Come on.
I don't think so. I think there's an opportunity out there for him. Look, we're living in a
boat, mate. Younger generation. Come on.
I think he's a good egg. I would.
You sorry?
I'd go there.
I
think he's fantastic. I think him for PM would get the job done.
But you know as well as I do that the Tory party, right, will pick two people. If there's if Theresa May goes, it will come down to two people. That will be picked by the Parliamentary Tory party, and they will not
really big
pick
issue, actually.
Boris Johnson.
And that's
they won't.
a really big issue. The situation we're currently in, and I'm going to do populist with inverted commas because I debate that term. But the people want authenticity. They want it, and Boris gives it.
I'm sure.
I don't think he does give authenticity at all.
He does.
He's presided over the biggest lie in British politics,
which is
the last.
I don't think
it's Brexit. I think what he said would happen regarding Brexit. He said that we could have free trade deals galore. I don't see them. He said that we could take back 8 billion, 9 billion a year, and that we could all give it to the NHS. But we're paying 39 billion to the European Union. Boris Johnson is the biggest liar in British politics. I don't see how on earth you think he's authentic.
It's already gone to the NHS. Theresa May has pledged
not because of Brexit.
Well, you could say that about everything. You can just choose, not because of Brexit here, but before Brexit here.
I'll say about the things we can't to do with Brexit. I'll say
really?
It
because I think what you're doing is just picking and choosing. You're cherry picking what's to do with Brexit and what not to do with Brexit.
Well, can you explain why the 394 million that Theresa May hasn't even given to the NHS yet is because of Brexit? Because I can't.
Well, obviously people wanted that, and I think it was highlighted that they wanted that.
Has it got anything to do with us leaving the European Union?
Well, I think it was made very clear that the people would like more funding towards the NHS during the referendum, and people voted for that. And
you sit there, Will, and you say that the biggest lie ever, right, by Boris Johnson. We talked about this last week, actually, with a couple of guys from business, Tim Martin, who set up Wetherspoons, and also the guy, Charlie, who runs Pimlico Plumbers. And they were both saying that what happened to that 350 million that was promised, that was a lie. But that's a bit rich from you, isn't it? And the people that want to remain. David Cameron created the biggest pile of BS ever known to man. And when he didn't get his own way, Project Fear didn't turn out to be true. He scuttled out of 10 Downing Street and left a constitutional crisis. I'm not a Boris Johnson. I was a Boris Johnson fan. I think he's over. I'll tell you what will happen. Somebody will come from nowhere. Somebody will come from the backbenches that you don't even know about right now. That's what always happens when there's a vacuum. It happened with Tony Blair and the Labour Party. What I want to know from you two is, and it's very much, I sit here, I watch politicians arguing the toss, I watch business people arguing the toss, and now we've got two younger people. What do the younger generation think about this? We all go, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure what it means. I said last week, and I stand by this absolutely, whatever you voted 2 years ago, nobody said about the problem with Ireland and a border stop. Nobody talked about what we were going to do for customs. It was all about, we're an island, we've been an island for years, we can be, let's go. Do you know what I said last week? I said this to you two, the younger generation. What's wrong with this country, right, saying to Europe, we're not giving you 39 billion quid, you can go and damn well do it. We believe that we can make goods or whatever good enough to sell to the highest bidder in the world, and we are not going to be dictated to by a bunch of European bureaucrats. Explain that to me, Will Drive, from a younger point of view.
Well, let me first take what young people think. You know, since the referendum, 1.6 million young people have turned 18, and that means they've got the vote. Yep. Of those people who are certain to vote, 87% of them would like to stay in the European Union.
Where did you get that from?
Well, I got it from YouGov, which is a fair and credible
pollster. Answer that, Luce.
We could keep doing that.
No,
I mean, why not let's do 4 years down the line? Then we'll have some more people turning 18. Is this
and the country will increasingly become in favour of its European Union
I doubt that,
membership.
because what's happening now is that we're discovering the faults of the EU, and we're asking questions about the EU that we were never allowed to ask before.
We're discovering the fantasies and delusions that are at the heart of the Brexit case, I'm afraid.
The lack of democracy and sovereignty that the EU is taking away from us is no illusion. That's a fact.
Well, under this Brexit deal, we're going to be copying their laws without a single say over them.
So you don't like Theresa May's Brexit deal?
I think it's a horrific deal. I think it's
the
worst of both worlds.
You and the side of the younger generation that believes, what are you saying now? You were all for remaining. You don't like a deal saying that we're leaving. You say you don't like it because you want a second referendum? You want no deal? What do you want?
Well, I think that we should put Theresa May's deal, which is a tangible action plan, to be fair to it, and compare it to what we've currently got, which is our current deal in the European Union. The problem with the last referendum is that it was fantasies on one side.
The EU and Theresa May are saying that the only thing on the table is her deal. Answer the question. What happens?
Theresa May said that there are 3 options on the table. There's her deal, there's no deal, and there's no Brexit.
Actually,
so what do you prefer?
I think no Brexit will be... She said it on the steps of Downing Street.
You made that up. No Brexit. What's going to happen? Let's just put this in
layman's terms. I think no Brexit would by far be the best option
for our country. And then what happens?
Well, we stay in the European Union, we tackle...
For what reason? The majority of people in this country don't want to be in the European Union.
Well, I'm saying that if we have a vote in which we compare our current deal to Theresa May's deal, the people of this country, all the evidence indicates, will choose our current deal because it's better on every measure.
If the Brexit deal was rushed through, we'd be dancing on the grave of democracy, wouldn't we? 53% of people, whether they were not 18 or not, voted to leave,
You can't dance on the grave of democracy when you're implementing the result of what would be a future referendum.
I think the logic... You're doing so many logical gymnastics to try and get what you want. You base all your arguments on confirmation bias. You're trying to tweak things here and there to equal what you think is a polling representation of young people. And I say young people in inverted commas because I think as soon as you're 18, you're an adult. You're a goddamn adult. You act like an adult. And I think this idea of sectioning off as part of society as young people belittles us. You know, we're adults.
What do you think is going to happen? Theresa May's deal is not going to be put through the Commons, is it?
No.
Not in any way. So what happens next? Does she go back?
God.
Are they going to say, Europe, there's no other deal, it's that or no deal? Are we going to say, stuff you then, no Brexit, and we're out, we walk out the European Union, we do it ourselves? What's going to happen?
We have to be able to walk away, and to be able to walk away, we have to start preparing for no deal, because that's the default position, and we should make that the default
But we all know
position.
that's not going to happen.
What do you mean we know that's not going to happen?
Because 500 MPs would block no deal.
Okay, well,
so if Parliament is sovereign, that's what this whole Brexit thing was meant to be about. So if they block no deal, it's not going to happen.
And I also think that we have to have somebody in a position that's going to advocate for a pro-Brexit position, which means somebody who is a Brexiteer. We've had that for the last 2 years.
No, we haven't. We've got a Prime Minister who voted Remain.
There's been Brexiteers at the absolute heart of government sitting on the top table.
Boris
Johnson was Foreign Secretary. David Davis was Secretary of the Brexit.
And why did they leave? Because the machinations of government meant that what the British people voted for couldn't be got got
they
through.
left because they
Fact.
ran away from their responsibilities and they realised that the
didn't.
lies that they've been spouting
They're
over the
not
last 3 years were not
They're
actually
not going to
able to be
support
delivered.
something that doesn't represent what the people have voted for. They're not going to support something that is not democracy.
What about that argument, though,
right
Lucy?
way.
Let's turn it round. What about the argument that Will comes up with, which is if you feel very passionately about something and you're in the inner sanctum, if you walk away, you lose the ability to have an impact on that by skulking off out of Downing Street.
Actually,
David Davis, hear me out, Boris Johnson, all the others that have walked, Esther McVeigh, my mate, are they able to implement any more on the back benches? But then, you see, I can answer that myself. Look at Gove. What's happened to Michael Gove's real belief? Down the Swanee in return for patronage, for staying in the cabinet. Is he standing by what he really believes in? Is he?
I mean, I think you've got the tentacles of the EU all over this, and I think
that sounds just like words. I want facts.
What do you think of Michael Gove? Do you think he's following his principles, or do you think he's...
No, I don't.
I at the minute, currently not. I think the deal is absolutely abhorrent. I think any Brexiteer would look at that deal and go, no.
Then
way.
why is he still in cabinet supporting
I
it?
You probably have to ask him because I don't.
If you were in
no
cabinet and that
idea.
was put to you, you'd have left, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then let's take it the other way. Let's do one of the most appalling things I've ever seen was Jacob Rees-Mogg on the steps outside the Commons, looking like he believed he was some sort of president. He's not even a government minister. Explain to me, right? This coup. Because I had a really weird feeling. I was going to say this to Kiernan, actually. The strange thing for me this week about the whole thing is I've spent weeks on this radio programme saying if Theresa May's legacy is to make Jeremy Corbyn look electable, that's frightening in my humble opinion, massively frightening. As the days go by, I keep thinking to myself, should I start to actually believe this woman's done all right and he's getting stronger by the day? Because what's happened to the coup? What's happened to all the people that skulked out of cabinet or on the back benches? They've done nothing.
There is a big issue with the coup because as soon as you start putting letters of no confidence in and there is a vote on confidence, vote of confidence, and she wins it, that actually makes her deal seem a lot more
She can't be touched then for a year.
Yeah, exactly.
No. The truth is that Jacob Rees-Mogg thought he was going to launch a coup
on
the Prime Minister, and the guy couldn't even get 47 mates to put in a letter with him.
But that's
max.
the reason why, though.
What?
I'm telling you the reason why people wouldn't put in their letters.
The reason why is because Jacob Rees-Mogg is a joke. He's horrifically incompetent, as is Steve Baker, and they've held the country to hostage for the last 2 years.
Incredibly personal, but also I think it kind of
politics is, isn't it?
No, it shouldn't be, and I think that's what we should get away from. And I think going after Jacob Rees-Mogg and saying that he's a joke is, he's a good statesman. He's
a statesman. You think Jacob Rees-Mogg is a statesman?
Yeah, and I think he does his job correctly. I think he.
What
I think
attributes
he
does he
stands
have
up
for the statesman hat?
I think he stands up for what he believes in, and he gives authenticity of what he is. He
doesn't really
owns what
answer
he
the fact
is.
that he couldn't get 47 mates together
Well,
to get rid of a woman who apparently is about to
why.
sell this country down the river. That's what I
she
want to
is.
know.
Yeah. Well, I've just said I think it's because.
But I haven't heard either of you say the alternative.
I've told you
again.
the alternative
What?
many times,
What?
but we let the people decide. If the politicians cannot
At
find
what
a way out
point
of this
do you
mess,
have a second, third, fourth, fifth? What you say is, and I don't necessarily, I understand why you say it. You say very simply this. If we are at stalemate, let's go back to the people. Instead of giving them a
It's the
referendum on
only
stay
choice.
or leave, right? Stay or go. What we're doing is we're saying, this is the deal, vote on that, right?
Yeah.
What happens in 2 years' time if we don't like something that somebody else doesn't introduce? How long does it keep going before you go that? No, seriously.
Gary, you've discovered this process called democracy. There are constant debates. There are constant debates in our society.
I want to take a caller very quickly. 20 to 2. Dion, good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, good. Listening.
Tell me what you want to say, pal. What's your view?
It's a bit more lighted than another radio station I've been listening to.
Just tell me what you want.
Yes, I voted to leave. That was it 2.5 years ago?
Yep.
I didn't realise it was go on and on and on, and all the talk radio stations were doing it all.
I told you. They're bored with it, even in Slough. What do you want? What do you think should happen? Do you care? Do you want to get on with your life? Talk to me.
Now, I'm 60 next month, and I don't really care. I just got a new girlfriend living with me.
Have you? Hold on a minute. Have you got the Jeremy Kyle music? What do you mean? How'd you meet her? Online?
I've known her for a long time.
Oh, have you? Okay. How did romance blossom?
And that's, do you know something? I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen.
I agree with that.
The day after the 29th.
That's the frightening thing for a lot of people. I come from... I don't mind the passion. I don't mind the fact that people care. I think that's a good thing. But I just think, don't know about you, Dion, feel like we're going round and round in circles. Ken Eubank says, talk Remainers don't have a clue. Brexiteers do know and always did. We will leave. It's an apathy, isn't there?
There is this
People
is
are
boring.
bored.
I'm talking and I'm bored of this whole debate. But the problem with sorry, not to insult either of you.
You're bored of her.
No, both of you. But look, the problem
Bored of me as well, you cheeky git. So we have Will Dry, co-founder of Our Future, Our Choice. He wants to stay in Europe. He's one of those lily-livered, weak-willed lefties that eats vegetables. No, I'm joking. Lucy, who's an ardent Boris Johnson fan. She rides ponies in the home counties and believes
really
that Boris will ascend to number 10. Before that, thank you, by the way, to Some Bingo. Download the app, play online at somebingo.co.uk. All right, Hayley, happy with that? 1:45. Round two. You both get very, very passionate. You talk about, the deal won't go through. She'll come back. There'll be a referendum. There'll be a general election. She'll be replaced. 500 this, 500 that. Nobody knows, though, do they?
No.
Is this, in terms of the younger generation, although Lucy doesn't want to be called a younger generation,
no,
you're
I'm an
offended by
adult.
that.
Yeah.
Are you? How old are you?
28, actually.
You are very old, aren't you?
I'm getting on.
Yeah. Are you married, single, divorced?
I have a boyfriend.
Good, excellent. Well, you don't anymore. No, I'm joking. On a serious note, do you think the younger generation... Here's the thing, because in the last election there was a lot made about how politics is now boring. And on a serious note, for me, it's refreshing to actually know that the younger generation, you understand why I'm saying that, are interested enough to be in a debate about this. Do you think that Brexit, whatever you want to call it, I can't say it, do you think that this is turning more people away? Or do you strangely think that this is waking up a younger generation because they realise that it's their future?
I think increasingly young people realise that this is not just their future, it's also extremely damaging for their future, and that they, across the country, our group goes around to universities, to schools across the country. Yesterday I was in Darlington, I said, if there was a referendum tomorrow, who would vote Remain? 90% of
we've gone from 87 to 90.
In Darlington. 90% of the hands go up. So I think that young people are extremely concerned at the state of the debate in Parliament and around the country.
It's incredibly interesting that you do bring up institutions like schools and universities, because they're incredibly Remain orientated. They do not have a diversity of thought. I've been in situations when I was 13. We had a mock election, and I was left with the Kips, i.e. the Kippers, and I decided to go through their little leaflets and work out something that I wanted to put towards my fellow schoolmates. I put it to them. My teacher comes in. He sees them. He starts ripping them up, and he says, "If I find out who's been giving them out, I'll give them 2 weeks detention." And that's the first experience I've ever had of a school basically saying that we can't believe in democracy.
Well, it's saying that 90% of the younger generation would, if there was a second referendum, vote to stay in the EU. Will there be a second referendum?
No.
So let's say then that you're right, that we leave. There's either no deal or whatever, and we leave. How long is it going to be for that younger generation that you're talking about, 90% of them in Darlington, to actually gather force, vote people in, and get us back into the EU? Or do you think if we leave, or when we leave, I should say, actually when, do you feel like that's it forever, we're done?
I don't think, sadly, it will be forever. I think that if we leave the European...
Sadly? What do you mean sadly?
Well,
you
because
want to be tied into Europe, telling us what to do.
We're going to be debating this issue for decades and decades
really?
and decades if we leave.
The EU lasts that long? Because
Well,
let's look at its
reality...
economical situation. It's going to break up in
It's not going to break. People have been saying that
years.
for 50 years. It still hasn't broken up
yet. Yeah, but
yet.
we're getting to the time I say, look at how Italy's going. Look at how Greece's debt is...
Look, the reality is, if you look at the big challenges of the 21st century, mass movement of refugees, the big technology companies not paying tax, you can only solve those problems, environmental problems, by working with other countries. Now, those are also the problems that young people feel particularly passionate
You can
about.
only deal with them if you work with other countries.
Absolutely.
What problems are we talking about?
Well, how on earth are you going to solve global warming on your own?
Quite agree with that, but we're talking about trade, aren't we, really?
No, but the European Union also does a lot to deal with those issues.
Yeah, it also controls an awful lot of how people
Well, it gives us control because we're part of it.
We don't have any control, actually. We have a veto.
We're going to have less control if we leave on Theresa May's deal.
I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. But let's look at what we had beforehand. We don't make the laws. The people don't sort of have a manifesto and they vote on a manifesto. It's unelected bureaucrats that we have to take laws from, and then we might have a veto. It may go through. I'm not
having a go at you, Luce, but you sound like one of those people who just talks in headlines, right? You sound like a typical Brexiteer, okay. You know. Will makes the point that we as a country, yes, we're an island, yes, we're independent, but we will, in his words, suffer if we don't have that union to help us with climate control, environmental issues, not just trade. Are the Brexiteers desperately clinging hold by their fingertips, now just talking about trade. What about the environmental issues? Does Europe not help us with those?
I think Will underestimates the power of of diplomacy across countries, even if you're not in the EU. I mean, look at how America talks about global warming. Look how China talks about global warming.
Well, the president of America doesn't believe in global warming,
yeah,
so I don't think.
Yes, but I'm talking about America in general. I'm talking
issue.
about America in general, and there's lots of questions to go around which we still haven't answered. Which, I think, of course, there's still a way to work together, and I think the fact that you think there isn't is a bit pessimistic.
I don't think there isn't. I think the best relationship that we can have with them to give us the most influence, the most control, is the one we've already got.
Do you know what I don't understand? What I don't understand is this. Here's for me the crux. You've just made quite a good point there, right? Which is, you believe that there's enough in the EU and our relationship with the EU, and that outweighs if we were on our own. But you have to answer this as a lever that lost, right? Presumably, 2 years ago, a majority of people felt that the European Union wasn't giving us, providing us, the right things. They were taking more than they were giving. Why in this process did Theresa May or anybody else not go, look, we're not going to go or stay. We want to renegotiate, right? I'm just putting the other side of the coin now. All the things that are hacking us off about an organisation that, if you go back to our country and we talk about the problems of the NHS and the education system, that's where the money should be spent. Why weren't those things dealt with rather than this stay, go without any understanding of what that would create? That's my point.
Well, ultimately, it's all about control. It's about how you get laws to the people that matter in a local space. And what the EU does is it does blanket laws that doesn't really tailor to the actual people it affects. So it is all about control. The EU just wants to take. It's not a place that wants to give. So that's basically.
But that sounds very black and white. If we go with Will for a second, who says that we're not going to be able to get away with it scot-free and never pay any money and tell them to do one. What is the? There isn't an answer, is there?
Yeah, that's the point. Like what you were saying about we could have had a negotiation. We have had one now. We now know what Brexit does look like. It involves giving 39 billion away. It involves food pricing, food prices going up, young people having less opportunities, young people being poorer.
Like.
So when we can go through the deal and see what Brexit actually looks like, that is the time to have a referendum on it, to have a vote on it.
I really enjoy a Remainer telling me what Brexit looks like.
I voted to leave, Lucy.
Okay,
so I'm not
you're on the Remainer side now. You want to remain inside the EU.
Yeah, because I've seen how badly it's going.
That's a great narrative to have, Will. That's a fantastic narrative to have.
Are you accusing me of lying?
No, I'm accusing you of. I'm not accusing you of lying.
Political flirtation going on.
No, but I think it's a great narrative to have.
But you've sat there and said that the point here is 39 billion. But how much do we give, right? You're saying that's too much money to give. How much are we giving every year?
But we get so much more back
as a
member.
Then why did 53% of this country say they want out?
Because people were promised, like me, amazing things as a result of leaving. Free trade deals, more control, more money for the NHS.
Ken says, I'm 66 and I'm personally unconcerned. I want Brexit to prevent the young and inexperienced being duped. I feel that. We'll look back on Brexit, says Don in Aberdeenshire, in a few generations as the turning point when Britain became a second strong economy. Brexit is just an expression of intolerance and racism.
Wow. That's bigotry.
It is.
It is absolute bigotry. I think the very fact that people seem to think it's a racist thing to have voted leave, I find absolutely apprehensive. It was about control. It was about having a say in our society.
Well, as it turns out, the people who voted to leave because they wanted their control back, unless I'm missing the point at 53, and I'm not the younger generation, we have less control, less understanding, and less anything about what's going to happen. In fact, we're in an even more confused position than we were. I don't know.
And I think
if people voted for more control and it ended up getting less control,
the point is, why
couldn't we have a vote?
Well, we haven't reached the end of the game yet. Well, it's still playing.
But how long
got the deal on the table now?
You say playing. There's the issue. I never thought I'd say this because I was a fan. A lot of this should lie at David Cameron's door. Genuinely, if you promise a referendum only because you're trying to outdo UKIP and you give it to the people, you then stand back and say, I'm the Prime Minister and I will implement it. I don't believe enough people were honest, explained enough about the ramifications of Brexit, and as a result,
what are the ramifications of Brexit, considering it hasn't happened yet?
You know what I'm saying. If David Cameron 2.5 years ago had envisaged what's happening right now and stalked out of Downing Street knowing this was going to happen, a country almost paralysed with their inability to make a decision, that's not good leadership, Lucy, whoever you are. Not good leadership. There's a mess. And from my point of view, it's interesting to hear from, I say the younger generation, though obviously Lucy isn't younger, as it turns out, but she looks younger.
I'm an adult.
You're very, very interested in all that adult stuff. We've got 2 minutes left, you two. Sum it up, Lucy. What's going to happen, please?
We're going to continue the chaos until somebody makes a decision. I think it will probably end up with a horrible deal that we did not expect.
The benefits of leaving would be what, briefly?
The benefits of leaving, well, I don't consider that leaving. So the benefits of leaving don't exist yet.
Well, I mean, look, that says it ever. A Brexiteer, and I vote to leave too, nobody, Dominic Raab, Boris Johnson, all of them, think that staying in is better. Parliament and politicians can't reach a decision. We have to give it back to the people. The people are the only ones who can make a decision.
But if the people haven't got any clue about what's going on right now, why should they have another vote?
But the people can analyse the deal that Theresa May has actually negotiated.
But you don't trust the people the first time.
Well, I do trust the people.
No,
That's why I want
She's
to give a decision.
absolutely right.
She is not absolutely
right. You are saying that 53% of the people that voted to leave Brexit, leave the European Union.
I was part of that 52%.
You've just said it. You've just said what leave people say. You didn't trust the vote last time and you want another one because it didn't give you the answer you want. That's not democracy, mate. That's changing the game plan when it suits you.
Look. I was part of that 52%. I'm discussing
53.
52.
0.7.
0.4, but I think the reality is that the politicians have messed it up. The promises made in the last referendum, it's not just that they haven't.
Politicians have messed it up.
No, Boris Johnson made promises.
God. Start being a dad. Go on.
Promises that not just haven't been delivered, but can't be delivered.
All I want for Christmas is a clean Brexit. It's been an absolute pleasure. Lucy, and Will, you weren't dry at all, you gobby man. Thank you very much indeed. Give them a round of applause. Isn't it fantastic? Right. End of the contest. Whatever you think. Interesting debate right here on the Jeremy Kyle Radio Show.